guys, Dilby here, welcome back to the channel. So today we're looking at music in the style of Atom 10 and MITA GAMI. These guys have had quite a meteoric rise in the last few years. They're like a bunch of tracks in the charts, playing big shows, releases on big labels like Crosstown Rebels, Dynamic, Nervous, Realm, loads. They just did a remix which is really cool for Rufus Du Sol. I think it's like #1 in Deep House at the moment. But needless to say, these guys are on fire. Their sound is really cool and quite unique. It's like a combination of a bunch of different styles from tech house, minimal, afro, melodic house and techno, indie dance. It's quite unique but quite current. This also means they've got quite a broad scope, so they do things ranging from more tech house to more melodic techno, and their tracks are played by a big wide variety of artists, which is possibly why they're doing so well at the moment. If you like the track that's playing in the background, it's a new one of mine. There's a link in the description to Beatport and Spotify. Your support is always appreciated. And as always, if you want to grab the project files, there's a link in the description to Patreon. One of the best ways you can support the channel. Let's get into Ableton and make some house music. Alright, so here we are inside Ableton, and I've put together a project in the style of Atom 10 and MITA GAMI. So as I said in the intro, these guys are pretty diverse in what they do, and it's kind of like got aspects of tech house, minimal, afro house, melodic house. It's kind of like a big mashup of all the cool styles from the last kind of 5 years or so. It's really good stuff. Anyway, let's have a listen to the project quickly and we can see what we're working with. So really cool. I'm really digging this, to be honest. So if you want to grab the project files, there's a link in the description to Patreon. That way you can kind of dive in deeper and have a little bit more of a look under the hood and see what's going on exactly. I will mention there's like a bunch of plugins in here like Span, Oscillos Megascope, a bunch of things that are kind of in my template. But if you grab the project file and you don't have those plugins, Synopsys Free G, it should work 90% anyway, because I'm mainly using Ableton stock plugins or free plugins, and anything that's got like a paid plugin. For example, I use this Mini V3. In that case, I'll freeze this so the audio will work. There'll be like a few things like this limiter, for example, but you could just chuck the Ableton limiter on and bring it up to about -8.5, -9 LUFS, you know, but everything's pretty much going to work anyway. So I just thought I'd mention that. All right, let's just dive in and take a look at the kick. It's literally one that I sampled from a track of theirs. I forget which one, but there's a link up here to a video where I show you how to sample kicks from any track. This is how it sounds. Solid, nice, tight, punchy kick. Just really good. You know, sampling a kick is a great way to push your tracks in the direction of a certain artist or a certain sound, and it kind of, if you know that that track sounds good in the club, then you know that that kick is going to sound good in the club for you. So basically not much to say. It's a kick. It's a 4/4 pattern. At the end of every 8-bar phrase, which in this case there's only one, there's this double kick. Okay, claps. So I noticed the drums are quite minimal style, meaning, like, what I mean by that is everything's quite tight. So the claps, I've used 2 layers, and what I've done is pulled in the sustain and the release really tight so that the full samples are not playing, just kind of playing the click at the start. So this is what the full sample of this sounds like. Okay, it's quite a clicky sound anyway. And this is what the full sample of this sounds like. You know, so that's a much bigger sound. And then together, I've got some processing going on. I've got some overdrive, which is kind of bringing up the volume a bit, but also adding some saturation and just kind of making them sound more full. And then I've got this clipper rack. So normally I use a clipper called K-Clip, but Ableton Saturator has a clipping functionality here, soft clippers on. I've made this macro which increases the drive and turns down the output. Shout out to one of the channel viewers who suggested that idea in the comment section, and I've got a bit of reverb on it. So basically we're just clipping off the transients a little bit of these claps. They can be kind of louder and punchier, but without triggering the limiter on the master. So kicks and claps. Very solid, but pretty standard housey stuff. Now we've got in the hats, closed hat, which I actually sampled from one of their tracks as well. It was just a nice clean sample that I could grab. Now we're looking at a backbeat like this. Cool. Now to kind of fill out the groove a little bit, we've got this 16th hat. All right, just a closed hat. No, it doesn't have any groove, it's just playing 16th, but I'm using a little bit of velocity here so that the offbeat notes are accentuated. I've got a shaker loop here. It's from a PML pack. I think it's called like Shaker Loops or something like that. Super cheap, like $5. And it's got a bunch of like live recorded shakers in there, which is really, really good. Really useful stuff. So with that shaker, it kind of adds this Afro vibe underneath and just really kind of adds some groove and some character to the drums. Now I've got a second open hat, which is kind of, it sounds a bit like an 808 type of thing. And it just kind of lifts up the energy, adds a bit more. Taken a bit of the attack off as this closed hat has got quite a lot of attack. So everything up to this point, solid groove, sounds nice, and we're starting to get a bit of character in there. In the percussion is where the character really starts getting added. I've got this percussion loop here, just something from Loop Cloud, I believe. As I said, they take some influence from kind of Afro house as well, so this really kind of helps to add to that. Cool. This djembe is just a one shot playing a pattern like this. Now I think that could probably add a little bit of reverb. Nice. So there we're really getting some character in those drums. I've got this click sound. I couldn't decide which one to use. I've got two actually, and I couldn't decide which one to use, so I kind of took this first pattern and then made a variation with this one. So it's kind of like doing a call and response with this percussion loop. If you're using percussion loops, I think it's really important to kind of add some interaction between them. Just a loop on its own is just kind of sound like a loop a lot of the time. But if you start creating this kind of call and response type of thing, then everything starts to work together. So we're getting some good call and response in the drums there. Now I've got these two fills, as I noticed this was something that they had in their tracks. Actually, there would probably be quite a bit more variation than this. I've only used two, but like we're only working with a 1 minute loop here. Over the course of a full track, I heard in some tracks they were kind of using a bunch of different kind of conga or djembe fills, different kind of percussion fills, and it just kind of really helped to fill out the groove and make things kind of turn over, keep rolling, keep interesting. Nice. Now we've also got this triangle thing. It's like another 16th element. It's doing a similar pattern to that 16th hat, the closed hat. Another very kind of Afro house sound, quite low in the mix, so without it. So it kind of adds a bit of pace and also another texture for the groove, for the drums. So that's all of our drums, that's our beat that we're working with. There is another drum element, which I noticed they used in quite a few tracks, which is kind of toms as a bass line or part of a bass line. So in this case, we're just playing like a really standard 16th and then offbeat pattern over every half bar. This is such a common pattern for house and techno music. If you want to find out more really common bass patterns, then check out this video I did where I break down the 5 most popular bass patterns of underground house and techno. Anyway, what I've done to create this is taken a few different tom sounds, put them into a rack here, and layered them up, right? Go back to the MIDI, it's playing 2 and 4 on here, and 3 and 1 here, 2 and 4, 3 and 1. Right, if I take off this auto filter. So we've got a couple here doing kind of like the low end body type of thing, and then these are kind of doing the transients. I'm taking away a bit of that top end, a bit of that body with the auto filter. We still kind of want these. So it's not really got that click, but it's still adding some punch and stuff to it. I'm using this warm up lows saturator just to kind of push this a little bit, add some harmonics. And rolling off the real subs and a bit of compression just to control the dynamics. And we've got a kickstart, which I'm just doing some side chaining to the kick pattern. So that sounds like this in the track. And with the kick, so super common pattern, I'm sure you're familiar with that. Now we've got another bass, which is coming from Vital. It's just a very simple patch that I've made with a sawtooth, a white noise. In the effects, I've got a bit of distortion, and I've got an envelope here controlling the cutoff of the distortion and the cutoff of the filter. So it kind of like, it has basically the same envelope on both of those filters. Really simple patch. It's in the project files if you want to get it, and Vital's a free synth, so no reason not to. It's a very subby sound, and this is the pattern I'm playing. I just take out these notes that I've muted. Hot tip, to do that, you just press 0 on the keyboard, turns things on and off. Okay, so if I grab that and this, we can see in this MIDI, I'll just kind of zoom in on this area here, we can see that these notes are like alternating. So where the tom is playing, the bass isn't playing, where the bass isn't playing, the toms are playing. Together they sound like that. So it sounds pretty cool, just adds like a lot more texture. Both are really simple sounds by themselves, but it kind of, when they interact together, it really adds kind of a bit more flavor. Also, the toms are tuned to C, and the bass is playing predominantly on the root note of the track, which is F minor. So together with the kick, pretty simple on the low end, very subby, but really kind of pushing the groove. So there's quite a lot going on in the bass line. It's quite busy, so it gives like a lot of forward momentum in the track. So it kind of has a feel like some kind of minimal house and some kind of melodic techno, has like 16th bass lines quite a lot. But yeah, really cool. Now we're starting to get into a bit more of the personality, I would say. So I noticed in their tracks they had some real kind of signature sounds that were these kind of 16th note riffs, I guess, usually either playing a descending pattern or some kind of pattern based on the root note. So there's elements like this in their Renegade remix on Crosstown Rebels, Lego on Dynamic, which I think was like one of their biggest kind of tracks, which propelled them quite a lot. There are similar things in their new remix of Rufus to Soul. This is how it sounds in context. So again, it's got some call and response with those percussion elements, lots of that going on. It's a preset from the Mini V, but I think I've tweaked it a lot. I won't reset it because it'll lose all the sound design, but it's there if you want to grab it in the project. Processing wise, a little bit of saturation, bit of chorus, free chorus plugin, totally recommend it. A little bit of EQ, not too much. I'm just trying to pull out some of those kind of sub frequencies and some of that kind of muddiness, because I just really want it to bite through, but not kind of get in the way of the kick and the bass. A bit more clipping to just control some of those transients, and a bit of sidechain. In this case, I've got the band set on the sidechain, so it's only sidechaining below 358 Hertz. Now we've got another riff here, which I've done in Wavetable, and it's pretty similar, but it's a bit of a different pattern. Basically, I kind of based it on maybe the remix of Renegade. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called, the one on Crosstown Rebels. So it's not exactly the same. I think it's in a different key. It's playing different notes, but it's kind of based on that. I'll delete that, it's not doing anything. So what we've got here is a couple of oscillators. I'll just open this up. We've got two wavetable oscillators. So this is from the distortion section, and this is from the complex section. We've got a tight plucky envelope, a tight filter, which is being controlled by envelope 2, this one here. And I've got these LFO1 and LFO2 controlling the wavetable position. So these kind of move up and down randomly, so that each note sounds a little bit different. Pretty cool. There's a bunch more stuff in there, but it's quite a complicated patch, but to be honest, most of the kind of sound design is coming from these wavetables. I've got some chorus just to spread it out a bit. Again, Tel Chorus LX freebie, which I absolutely love. Bit of EQ, bit of sidechain compression. Now, I basically did two versions and I couldn't decide which one I liked, so I layered them. So this one's a bit more of a classic FM. You'll see here I've got this set to FM, the tune and amount. And then so pretty similar patches. They're just, this one's using the basic shapes wavetable, so it's kind of going somehow between a saw and a triangle kind of thing. Then in the sound design, I've also got an amp on this one. Just makes it kind of sound a lot grittier, right? And then together, I've got clipping on both of them. So having them actually play together does add a bit more than just volume, in my opinion. That's cool. Also cool, but doesn't quite have the full character. So it's a bit more dense and kind of interesting and textured when they both play together, I feel like. So in context, we're doing like a call and response. So it's all about the call and response in this one. Now we've got this 16th pluck. This is kind of a bit more of a melodic techno indie dance kind of sound, I would say. So it's just a preset, and I've got this LFO, there's two LFOs. So this is basically some bit crushing, and this is just selecting the frequency here. And when this LFO moves this noise frequency, it creates this kind of movement. So each time it plays, it sounds slightly different. And then I've got this LFO set to the drive. And I'm automating this depth so that this increases. So it just adds a little bit more craziness. It feels like it's kind of rising up in the context, but it's subtle enough that you kind of feel it but don't really notice it too much. They're also being sent to a return track which has got a delay going into an EQ, some sidechain, and a flanger. So that sounds like this. Let's see if I can just play it with this. Pretty cool. I recommend like creating some of these like interesting return tracks and save them in your template, and they can really help give you a signature sound. Just come up with different kind of combinations of crazy effects that sound cool when you use a send and return to send them there. Generally you want stuff that's kind of big, wide, spacious, maybe a bit chaotic, and then I would always sweep out the low frequencies, and quite often I would add a sidechain compressor to it just to kind of control it and make sure that the things that are actually playing in the main track are more in front, and that this stuff is more like adding atmosphere and drama. So that's kind of the main elements. I've got this Atmos hit, which is basically just a cool sound from Vital. So it's just one of the presets, super nice pluck. But basically what's happening is there's this guitar loop in the sampler section of the synth, and it's randomly playing different parts of that. So you see each time it starts at a different place. Then I've got it going into some overdrive and another free plugin from Valhalla called Supermassive. This is adding like a big reverb shimmer effect. So without it, cool. With it, you get that kind of more atmospheric sound and a lot more sustain. So that one's free. You can go grab it from Valhalla's website. I've got a synth riser from one of Kashmir's packs on Splice. Cool. I mean, it could go in the effects section. It's just an effect, really. Then I've got a pad, which is just a loop put into simpler. And because we're taking out kind of the kick and pretty much all the drums in the break, it just kind of, there's a lot of space for this, and it kind of adds a good like atmosphere and a good bit of drama to the track in the break. So we've got some really good kind of dynamics in that break. You know, it's a big shift from here to here to here. It comes back quite dry. Now we've got a couple of vocal elements, nothing major. We've got this breath, which is an idea I think I got from their Renegade remix on Crosstown Rebels. It sounds really cool with the beat. So adding little things like this into your groove, into your beat, helps to give them like real character and really makes them really memorable. I've got this vocal glitch, which is just a loop put into a simpler, and I've got this LFO set to random, and it's just moving the start point here. So if I open this up, you can kind of see it glitching around there. And this means that every time it plays, it's playing from a slightly different start point. So it just kind of gives it, it still sounds the same, but it makes it, each time it plays is a little bit different. I've then got it going into a tantra, and I've got this mix set to 54%, so it's not doing everything with the tantra. And then with the tantra, so you know, you could get away without the tantra, but it just kind of adds a bit more kind of detail. Again, with this pattern, just lots of 16ths in this track. In the break, I kind of double it up. And then this was actually a late addition. I was pretty much finished, and I just kind of found it on Splice, I think. But I felt like it really kind of added some character and something a bit more exciting to the track. Got a bit of a kind of 80s vibe. I don't know if it would be exactly something they would use, but I think it really lifted the track, to be honest. What I've done to it is just quite heavily EQ'd it. I could have literally done this just with the EQ going like that, but I decided to boost stuff rather than cut. I've got this bit reduction, which is making it kind of sound a lot more crunchy. I've got this magic switch, which is another free chorus plugin. Adding some width and a big ping pong delay. Cool. So in context, where we're at now. So really good. And in their tunes, I noticed they used quite a few effects. I've got this live drum fill. I've got it sent to quite a bit of reverb and a bit of delay, just to kind of make it a bit more spacious and fit it in the track. It's also kind of playing it's kind of interacting with these drum fills here. Okay, so we've got a bunch of like one-shot effects. I've got this clap with some reverb and stuff on it. Very nice. I've got this noise impact sound, which is, here you go, show in browser. So it's a much longer sample, and I've basically pulled it in and tweaked the envelope just to kind of get it to the length that I wanted, and then I'm using it in different lengths along here, and I'm sending it at different points to a delay and to a big reverb here. So this is to the delay, and this is to the big reverb. So it kind of sounds like a crash or white noise sweep at the end as well. I've got this tonal sweep, which actually sounds really like some elements that I've heard in their track. And it was just a random find from a really old Vengeance pack. I think it's called Vengeance Effects or something like that. Really cool. Nice. And then we've got a couple more. We've got this uplifter, also from the same Vengeance pack. Nice one. And then we've got this downlifter. Also a nice one, and that's from one of Kashmir's packs on Splice. Then I've got this snare roll. So it's just a snare, and I'm just using the volume of the EQ to automate it a bit. And what we do here, just before the drop, is a bunch of things turn off and stop and have this like half a bar. So it's almost a silence, but there's still a couple of bits and pieces and atmosphere going on, but it really helps to give dynamics and create more impact on the drop. Really good. So that's how we can make some house music inspired by Atom 10 and MITA GAMI. I think it's pretty cool. If you want to grab this project, you can do so from the link in the description to Patreon. It's one of the best ways you can support the channel. And I think it's a really good way to get in there and kind of see a bit more detail about how some of these things are made, how some of it's put together. There's also so many more projects on there. Like, I've been doing this for a few years now and almost weekly, and there's a lot. Just trust me, there's a lot. So jump over there and have a look. I'm sure you won't be disappointed. Alright guys, there you go. Hope you enjoyed that. Let me know in the description, what's your favorite track by Atom 10, MITA GAMI, or them collaborating? And if you're looking for something to watch next, then check out this. I think you're going to like it. But that's it from me today. We'll catch you next time. Peace!